going in and having that positive reinforcement of training, because it just carries over.
Before I introduce our next guest, you know this story. Often with dealing in a topical news show, people have to get bumped because we have either people coming up, politicians, or people have specific issues, or something broke that's topical, and you have someone with a book on it. So this next guest has been so friendly, and we've had to move him several times because it's a great idea. Let me get this out first. At Shaw Strength, shawstrength.com, shawstrength.com, again, SHAW. We've had to move him several days, 4 times World's Strongest Man. That's a great way to start. Just piss off the World's Strongest Man. Brian Shaw, thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being so patient, and I'm such a big fan. As a matter of fact, I have to say this: our researcher, the Beast, Reg, is a huge fan. He's a little guy, but he's got a 600-something raw deadlift, I think a 500-something, 600-something raw squat, a 500-something raw deadlift at 180.
Awesome.
He's a university professor, so he's.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's just.
That's great.
I just don't want to be on his bad side. So world's strongest 4 times. Unbelievable. The best American strongman competitor, for people who don't know, well, certainly some people will argue it, but I would say ever. I have to hedge what I say because people will get mad. What's that like? And when did you have your flash of genius moment to say, hey, I can lift heavy things and move them faster than anybody I know?
It's looking back, I don't know if I had one moment where that kind of occurred to me. It was, something growing up as a kid. I did, a lot of manual things. My uncle had a farm, so we had to do, farm work and that type of thing. And it was just something you did because we had to do it.
Right.
But looking back, doing those types of things at 11 or 12 years old is probably a little bit abnormal.
Were you lifting the calf down every day up the hill?
I have lifted calves before, not necessarily in consecutive days, but I have done that. So it's just something that kind of, looking back, I think that all the signs were there, but I didn't really realize how gifted I was until I actually started competing. And it just was a natural fit for me. After I started competing, it was something that everything came very naturally. I was able to move things that other people couldn't move.
That's as they go cow tipping. We're gonna go shh, and Brian lifted it. Brian, what the hell are you doing? Don't carry it.
For instance, here's the Atlas Stone. If you want to watch that.
B-roll. With some B-roll here of the Atlas Stone. Oh gosh, this is just, it scares me. It hurts my back to watch. So for people who know you now, you're 6'8", I think 440 pounds. When you started Strongman, how big were you?
I was probably, obviously, the same height, but
yes.
Probably about, I would say about 330 pounds or so. And that's, going on.
Paltry.
12, yeah.
Tiny.
What's funny about that is I look, if skinny is a word, at 330 pounds, I was skinny, just because of my frame, at that age. And it's taken me a lot of years to put that weight on, to just increase my lifting leverages and to be more competitive.
Yeah. Well, come on, you're being so modest. Competitive. 4 times World's Strongest Man. It's like, just to, I just want to go the distance and be still standing. No, you won World's Strongest Man 4 times. It's unbelievable. You have a 905-pound squat. Your tire deadlift is 1,140 pounds. For people who don't know, it's just unbelievable stuff. And actually, my producer here, he has been putting on weight. He had, I think, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. He had ulcerative colitis, so had a big part of his intestine removed, and he's struggled with gaining weight for a long time, and he's been lifting again. And what do you want to say what you're up to? I don't want to.
I'm up to, I don't have a squat machine or proper squat, but 200 is what I'm up to on.
I mean your weight, though, your body weight.
Weight, yeah, up to 161.
Which for him is really, so huge. What advice would you have for someone like him who isn't just, I don't want to drink milk, but actually had, a disorder that led to him struggling with it? Because I know he's curious and he's too shy to ask because he's afraid of you.
Yeah, it's, obviously that's a hurdle that he's gonna have to overcome, and something that a lot of people don't have to deal with. But gaining weight, I get that question very, very frequently, and the typical question is just like, oh, I'm trying so hard to eat, and I can't gain weight, but when it really comes down to it, eating, if you're really serious about trying to gain weight, it has to be a job. I mean, you got to be eating, whether you're hungry or not, every couple hours from when you wake up to when you go to bed. So it's the commitment. You can't have one day of good eating and then the next day you kind of eat 2 or 3 smaller meals and then go back to it. It's just something where, for me, I would, like when I was younger and I was really trying to gain weight, I would just pack an entire cooler and take it to work with me. And then I would have to eat the contents of that cooler by the end of the day and then start and do it all again.
And your colleagues going, Brian, you didn't have to bring food for the whole team. Get away.
Exactly.
And that's the only reason I've seen results this time around is just being really good. It's the most consistent I've ever been with just eating every day. And I realize you work out, it sparks a hunger. Your appetite goes up. First. You eat, which gives you energy to work out. So it's kind of it's a cyclical sort of momentum thing.
440, here you come.
There we go.
Brian, let me ask you this, because I'm always interested in, this show, obviously we have a lot of political figures and deal with cultural issues, but to me, I'm always fascinated by people who are the best in any field. Excellent. Even though I hate soccer, Sven Computer knows, I still have a credible respect for the best soccer players. You couldn't pay me to watch it. So for people who aren't maybe necessarily following strongman and aren't as familiar with you 4 times world's strongest man. That is so elite. Was there a turning point? Because you kind of struggled for a while. You were coming in 3rd and 2nd and then rattled off first place finishes. It seems to a viewer like there was a turning point. Do you know what that was for you?
It's when I got my first taste of going to World's Strongest Man, to say I'm competitive is kind of an understatement. And I've been that way my entire life. From when I was a kid. I mean, I can't imagine how many problems I caused for my parents, but
it's one of those the Monopoly board. My God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, for me, it was something. Once I got to that level and worked so hard to get there, I wanted to win very badly. So my focus was 100% on a daily basis on being the best that I possibly could be. So, it's literally a lifestyle that I have to live and to get to that level, you want to be the best, like you said, of anybody in the world at something. You're going to have to commit yourself fully to doing that. And it's not easy. And, you have to work through tough days. You have to work through challenges, overcome a lot of different things. But, once I got that taste of it, that was kind of my turning point where I knew that I had the capability to win, and that just drove me even harder.
Yeah. Jared, you have a question?
I had a question. I mean, obviously, most of our fans aren't competing in, World's Strongest Man competitions, but a lot of people like Mark Ripito talk about how the benefits of anyone getting stronger. Can you speak to kind of like what benefits do people need to know about that just being stronger is good, period?
Yeah.
Regardless of competition.
That's a huge point. I mean, it's something where I would say that everybody, in my opinion, should work out, should train, because it teaches you so much about yourself. And as you go in and put that work in and you see results, it's kind of a positive, a positive effect that continues to happen. And then you have a more positive self-image, and it just carries over to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it teaches you so much about yourself, just training in general. So I think that absolutely everybody should work out. I think it's something that it can be such a positive thing.
The measurable progress is what we talk about. That measurable increase with the weight, it's a number, it's a mathematical number. Whereas some other things, we have a lot of combat athletes doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or boxing. You have some good days, some bad days. The barbell, the kilograms don't lie.
Though I will say, I've never once gotten out to my car and be like, I can go to work if I just move that 560-pound rock in front of my car. So, never once happened.
No, it's never.
So I don't,
No, but Mark Ripito, has written Starting Strength, and he talks about that, how you're obviously, listen, I hate to use the term freak athlete, but you obviously have a genetic component. Not everyone is 6'8". People can try as they might, maybe not be the world's strongest man. Some people aren't very fast. Some people have, some hurdles, but everyone can get stronger than they were. And I think that's the takeaway that a lot of people miss when talking about self-esteem. We're not saying you're strong per se, just stronger than you were.
Yeah, absolutely. You can improve yourself, and it doesn't have to be your main focus. And like you said earlier, you don't have to be going after being the strongest man in the world or anything even close to that. But going in and having that positive reinforcement of training, because it just carries over, and anybody that's worked out regularly will understand that. How you feel after you go in and work out, it's just a very uplifting feeling. And being able to put even 5 more pounds on the barbell and lift it, that's a positive effect that you can measure. And it's something that makes you feel good about yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say, and forgive me if ever I'm overstepping my bounds, but I think this is out there. I've watched pretty much all the strongman documentaries out there, and also the YouTube semi-documentaries on you. You have a wonderful wife, Mrs. Shaw, who seems very supportive, and she seems to have a very deep understanding of you, your idiosyncrasies, when to give you space when you're competing. My wife is like that. When I do stand-up or do the show, she knows, okay, give him some space here. Here's where he needs support. How important would you say that is having someone like that and the complementary roles in a unit to make it happen? Because you seem to have that in spades.
Yeah, I am definitely very lucky to have my wife. It's something where it's a big commitment what I have to do, but having her there to support me and like you said, she knows when to kind of give me a little bit of room and when I need to talk or when to because I have good days and bad days too. Sure. I come in from training or something, and I'm just kind of like, man, that just didn't go the way I wanted it to go or something. And then, she just kind of knows how to pick me up and to support me. And she does so much stuff, honestly, so much stuff behind the scenes that people never see, I'm kind of the guy that people look at and they say, okay, well, Brian went to this contest and performed or won or whatever it is. And, the credit doesn't necessarily go back to her, but she was helping me with so many things around the house and making my life easier so that I can go train and do what I need to do to perform.
Yeah.
And having that support system is massively important.
Yeah, I remember when I watched the documentary, it was very, very touching to me when I would hear her speak. And listen, you're also a very bright guy and a sensitive guy. We were talking about how having Lacey Green, this idea of toxic masculinity and how you have to be big and aggressive and you can't express your emotions. I think you're a great walking example of someone who is what we talk about. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I've talked about this on the show a lot. The term was originally jack of all trades, master of one. And then it got turned into jack of all trades, master of none. But the mockery has become the colloquialism. The idea was you're not a complete man unless you're physically, emotionally, spiritually kind of in line. And you're obviously very articulate. And if people watch these documentaries, you seem like somebody who's very comfortable in his own skin. What do you say to a lot of people who think of strong men or athletes sort of in that milieu as meatheads?
Yeah, it's something, it's just a generalization that people make, and they assume that, okay, well, if you're competing in this sport and, it's a very masculine sport, obviously, and we're having to do these things, and it's kind of a, for lack of a better term, an alpha male, type of sport. And we're going after the world's strongest man title. It's something that, a lot of guys do get caught up in that, but, for the most part, a lot of strongmen are actually very well educated men that maybe outside of the contest, you have to be able to flip that competitive switch when you're competing. But when you step out of that arena or off that stage, most of us are very humble guys and pretty down to earth. You have a few that are not that way, and they kind of keep that persona, and they're not very nice to people and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's it's something. I think for me, it kind of came from my upbringing, from my parents, always remain humble and be thankful and, that type of thing. And I just tried to carry that on, even with all the success that I've had and going to these bigger competitions and having more people follow me and watch me and that type of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that humbleness has to go away or that I need to take on this persona of being a meathead or whatever. It's something that.
But a lot of people do. I appreciate that you don't, because there's nothing more corrosive potentially than human soul and success. And obviously, you're about as successful as you can be in this endeavor. And you could easily have come on here and been a jerk.
Sure.
And you could have hurt
me. We couldn't say nothing.
We couldn't say anything. But let me ask you this: in your opinion, obviously as a 4-time winner, who would you say, and there's a lot of debate about this, in your opinion, who's the strongest man who's ever lived? You can't include yourself. That's not fair.
man, that is a tough debate, and it's a debate that you go into any sport, and it's hard to compare eras of any sport, and that's really where the debate comes. So you've had several different men that have kind of dominated their respective era of strongman. So the first one probably being Bill Kazmaier.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very, very dominant in strongman and powerlifting, especially in the early 80s. It was early to mid 80s was unbelievable.
And he was smaller than your starting size. So
yes.
To show how it changes.
It's crazy. I mean, he's actually still a pretty big guy, in a lot of ways, but the guys have just got bigger overall, and so I would say that on that list, you have Bill Kazmaier, and then one of my main rivals.
Oh no, the suspense.
Oh no, it's suspense. He just cut. I'm willing to base it. Is going to say. Oh, sorry. Can you hear us? Zavickas? Is that what you were about to say?
Yeah, it's Zydrunas Savickas. Yeah, Lithuanian.
Okay.
Yeah. So him and I have gone back and forth at World's Strongest Man. We both have 4 World's Strongest Man titles. So I would put him on that list, and then you'd have to there's kind of legendary strongman from the past, and probably the top one of those is Louis Cyr. He's probably been documented.
Quebecer, yeah. The backlift.
Yeah.
For people who don't know the backlift, Jared, you have to do the long shot. The backlift is where you would put weight on here, and like people would, and you'd do this and lift it up. So literally, you'd lift it like this. When people now they go backlift, I'm like, no, you don't. Louis Cyr, from what I understand, the record still hasn't been broken. But
as far as I know, it has not. Yeah. So I mean, he's probably from all the legendary, strongman of the past. He's probably got the best documented feats of strength of anybody. And I mean, there's, one of the biggest contests we have, we actually get the trophy is a statue of Louis Cyr.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. So, I mean, he's definitely held in very high regard in the strength community still, after all these years. So.
Oh, sorry, my dog was growling there. I don't know if he didn't like Louis Cyr. He walked into the studio hopper. Okay, here's something, again, and I know you're so competitive, so you don't have to answer if it's a sore spot. But again, when I have someone who's the best in their field, there are certain issues that fascinate me, okay? And I can ask this now, I think, please don't hurt me, because you went on to win 4 times. But like you said, Zavickas was your main rival. And there is a moment, I remember when I was watching World's Strongest Man, I can't remember which year it was, but it was a log lift. I think it was the Austrian Oak. And as far as I remember it, no one else had lifted it yet. Some kind of overhead lift. And then I think you were the first one to do it. And you got a rep or 2. And then I remember Zavickas getting, and because that was his lift, listen, different strongman, and he just repped it out like it was a baby. Again, I don't say that because then you went and you came back and you won. This is not a slight at all. But what was that moment like for you? Because it was so mind-blowing how strong he was in very specific facets back then.
Sure. There was, I don't know exactly what moment you're talking about there, but there was definitely times where he had events, especially with the log, because that's, he's been pretty open saying that's been his favorite lift by far overall. And so he had those moments with the log, whereas I had kind of those moments with lifting stones, which is more of kind of my specialty lift, where, he couldn't do those things. So in a lot of ways, I think that's what made our rivalry great, is that he had different strengths than I did. And it was always trying to keep up, for me, keep up with him the best I could on like his best events. And then the same for him. Yeah. And I think that we forced each other to get better, which made it, it made it great, really.
Yeah. It really was an era that was very fun to watch. And I just asked because I always wonder what it's like to be like the strongest guy everywhere you go. And then in one event, one guy is just, you're like, I like it for
one word is frustrating. I don't like any. Yeah, I never liked that. It was, because you put all this hard training into doing it. And then, if you go and have an event like that where he would do so well, and I had trained so hard to be better at it, it was just kind of like, man, you walk away frustrated from moments like that for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's also important to note, strength athletes tend to kind of age better. They come into their prime a little later. And so that's what kind of happened, and with the age gap there. And then you went on to win, I said four I don't know if it was 4 consecutive. I think there might have been a gap in there with one injury.
Yeah. So the years were 2011, 2013, and then 2015 and 2016.
Yeah.
So I had a couple in the middle there that didn't work out, but it's overall it's the longevity.
Yeah. Very consistent.
And that's like you said, with strength athletes, it's much different because as you age, you get stronger, but your training has to change a little bit. And I'm learning that more and more all the time is, I can't train the same way as when I was 25.
Right.
It just takes a little bit longer to recover, but I'm stronger. So it's kind of trying to find that rhythm of how hard to work and how much energy to put into training and allowing yourself still to recover and get stronger. So, I always found it fascinating when I was younger to ask the older guys all the questions because they had already been through the battles and they had already kind of figured everything out. And most of them said that the strongest they ever felt was kind of in their late 30s to around 40.
Yeah.
That's kind of where they felt like they were their absolute strongest. So, hopefully with that being said, I'm still creeping up on that. So if we can get a couple more good years, that'd be great.
Add crazy old man strength to Brian Shaw. That's stuff that gives kids nightmares. Well, let me ask you this, since you brought that up, and then I know you're busy. We have to get going. As someone who's 6'8", over 400 pounds, when you retire, what are your plans? Are you planning on obviously still training? It seems like one thing I know, strongmen seem to maintain it more than say like bodybuilders. They seem to like Bill Kazmaier is still in it. But do you plan on staying strong, but shedding some weight so it's not on your joints as much?
Yeah, I'll probably try to lose some weight, just based on the fact that I won't be competing,
right?
And so I don't need to be as big. But I mean, for me with my frame, I don't know how much weight I'll lose, but if I lose, 50 or 60 pounds, that would probably be enough, and I'd probably feel great even losing that much weight, and so, but my goal, I'm still going to work out. I mean, from when I found weightlifting in high school, I never stopped, and I really and truly just love it. It's not something where, for me, if I wasn't competing in strongman, I would still be working out just because it's been a consistent thing. And, I think you mentioned earlier, a 45-pound bar is always going to weigh 45 pounds and a 45-pound plate is always going to weigh 45 pounds. And the weights don't care if you've had a good day or a bad day or whatever. And so for me, the way I've always kind of looked at it is training has been a consistent in my life. Always. Mm-hmm. And I can always go put that work in to working out and feel better about myself. So it's something for me. I'll definitely maintain that training and still do it because for me, it's fun.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
And I'm not at all suggesting you need to lose weight. I just know in speaking with a lot of, we have a lot of, like Mark Ripito, who was a powerlifter, a lot of guys are like, well, yeah, I don't need to keep this weight up. Like I need it for maximal strength. But as I get older, longevity.
Even LeBron, that was a big thing. He shed some weight so he can, just, extend his career.
I mean, I'm the upper side of 6'2". Tall guys, it's just a reality. If we don't live as long sometimes because of just the levers and the constant torque. So obviously, you don't worry about that now because you're the strongest man in the world. But I always wonder as you grow out of it, it's a whole lifelong journey. Mr. Shaw, it is Shaw. I want to make sure I have your Twitter right.
Shaw Strength.
Shaw Strength, and then it's shawstrength.com. Where can people best follow your I know you speak a lot. Where should people look for you next?
Really, I'll kind of be all over the place. I mean, I'm still competing actively. So I still got that going on. And I post a lot, try to post a lot on Instagram, and that's just Shaw Strength as well on there. And I try to kind of document some of my travels on there a little bit more. But it's there. And then trying to put more content on YouTube as well. And that's been a lot of fun.
What's the YouTube channel? Is it also Shaw Strength?
Shaw Strength, yep.
Good. No one's stolen.
We've been putting some fun stuff out on there, and hopefully be able to keep some fun content coming in the future here with that as well.
And just so you know, if you want to get more followers on Instagram, yoga pants and booty pictures. I've noticed that seems to be very popular.
He and some yoga pants.
Yeah, exactly. Just Brian Shaw doing the copper tone ad. Well, right. Thank you so much, Brian Shaw. And we would love to have you back. And next time, I promise it won't be so long. I really appreciate you answering some personal questions. I've just always been fascinated and was genuinely curious.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, if you like this video, subscribe or click the notification bell. You should do both anyways because YouTube doesn't notify you if you're just subscribed. You have to hit that notification bell. So if you already are subscribed, hit the notification bell. And if you're not supporting this content, go to louderwithcreditor.com/mugclub. You get the full nightly show, an hour every day, free when you subscribe. This hand-etched girthy mug as well as other programming. And listen, you also get to support Not Gay Jared's Remicade treatment. I don't know what it is. I know it has